In this video, I will teach you how to write a formula or a rule for a geometric sequence. Now, first of all, this is a geometric sequence because you can get from one number to the next by multiplying by a certain number. In this case, 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. And if I wanted to find the next number in the sequence, I would again multiply times 2, and I would get 48, and so on. So a sequence where you can multiply by a certain number over and over again, and that will give you the next term. That's what a geometric sequence is. Now, that little multiplier is called r. So in this case, r is equal to 2. R is obvious for this particular problem, but in general you can get r by taking each term and dividing by the previous term. Okay, so in this case, for example, I could take 12 and then divide by 6 because that is the previous term, and that tells me that r is equal to 2. So keep that in mind. Now, here's how you write the formula. First of all, for sequences, you know how normally when you write an equation, you start off with y equals, and then you do a rule like 2x plus 1 or something like that. Or sometimes we will use function notation and say f of x equals 2x plus 1. So we're doing something similar, but we're not going to use y, and we're not going to use f of x. And in fact, generally we don't use the variable x. So instead of doing y equals or f of x equals, we write a sub n. Okay? And n is the variable that we're going to use. So now here are a few more things. So the formula for a geometric sequence is a1 times r to the n minus 1 power. Now a1 represents the first term of the sequence. Okay, and that just makes sense because, for example, a2 is the second term, a3 is the third term. So for example, this is a3. a3 is 24. Alright, so of course a1 is the first term. And of course this is a1 right here. Now we've already discussed what r is. Alright, r is any term divided by the previous term. Now n is just a variable, so n is going to stay the way it is. So an with this variable n right here represents any term you want. That's why we use it for the rule. Okay, so that means we need two things. We need the first term and we need the r value. So the first term is obvious, so that means the rule is going to be 6 because that is the first term. Now we've just found that r is 2, and then we just put the n minus 1 power. So this is a rule for any term. So for example, if I wanted to know the 10th term, alright, 10th term. If I wanted to find the 10th term, that would be a10. And so I would do 6 times 2 to the 10 minus 1 power. So that would be 6 times 2 to the 9th power. Now, I don't know what 2 to the 9th power is off the top of my head. Maybe I'll cheat and use a calculator. Okay, so the 10th term in this case would be 3072. Anyway, that is how you write the formula for a geometric sequence.